From the opera La Boheme, the tune Tattoo. This afternoon, our majorettes are line captain Brenda Garman, Pam Hills, Pam Crumley, Lori Baldwin, Angela White, and alternate Lisa Cartus. Two of the Grizzly trumpets are featured next, Mike Fox and Debbie Castillo to the sound of To Life.
Hi, I'm Sally Baldwin, Art Baldwin's wife. Art was band director at Wadsworth High School from 1956 through 1982. This is a celebration in memory of Art, Sarge Baldwin's bands, and recognition of those hard-working, talented, award-winning, dedicated, sweating bunch of kids who can pull up memories of that time, and what a time it was. Art received his B.S. degree from Kent State. His master's degree was interrupted by World War II. He enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1942 and was assigned to the Asiatic Pacific area, where he fought battles at Peleliu, Palau, Okinawa, and Raikuku Islands in the Scouts and Snipers platoon. He then was assigned to the occupation of China. For his service during the war, he was awarded the Silver Star 2 clusters, Purple Heart 1 cluster, and his rank was sergeant. And that's where the name Sarge came from. I'm very proud of him.
Dave Hanshu, a class of 81. What do you say about the guy that handed you a trumpet in 5th grade and started you on a path that would eventually lead to your career? I'm now a high school band director. Think about art an awful lot, and a lot of times when I'm in the classroom, I say to myself, what would art have done here? It's kind of interesting. Being a high school band director, it gives me an opportunity to see the inside workings of bands, and it really does make me appreciate more of the things we did in high school. Competitive high school marching band directors are a pretty small group of people and pretty small fraternity. And every once in a while, someone still asks me where I went to high school. And I say Wadsworth High School, and those that know of the program from the old days will say, oh, you were one of Mr. Baldwin's students. And those fortunate ones that knew art would say, oh, you were one of Sarge's students. And it usually follows up with, oh, those were some fine bands. They certainly were.
Director Art Baldwin's Grizzlies presents...
Crunchy granola. Crunchy granola, I'm in my kitchen. And I heard this Crunchy granola song come on the radio, and I knew that was it. So I called Art and I said, Art, you got to hear Crunchy granola. And he said, Crunchy granola? What kind of name is that? So I called Bill Alcest down at the old dime store, and he got the sheet music for us, and that's where Crunchy granola came from. Doesn't sound a bit like the original, does it?
Now all the majorettes are featured while the band plays Crunchy Granola.
The Cadence. They knew we were there before we were ever there, and especially number 6, Art's Cherry Pink. These are forever memories of Art and his Wadsworth High School Marching Grizzlies.
Hi, my name is Doug Ross. I was in the Wadsworth High School Marching Band under the direction of Art Baldwin from 1979 to 1982. I was in Terry Baldwin's class, so we didn't get to have him our senior year. It was kind of a bummer because that was the one thing I was really looking forward to, is having him as my director as all 4 years. I remember coming up as an incoming freshman, you almost had to get called up because there were only so many spots for players, because he had 97 players and 5 majorettes. That's the max he would ever have. And I was a drummer, and we had a lot of fantastic drummers, a lot better than I ever would be, coming up in the same class. And, you know, so there were, I think, that my freshman year, there were only 2 spots available. And Billy Durandi and Joe Knopfinger got the spots like that. And so I wasn't in the marching band the fall of my freshman year, but I got called up the spring for the spring trip to Niagara Falls. And they would add a squad of drums and, you know, things like that. So that was my first experience of going out onto the band road or whatever, and that was a lot of fun. But here's a picture from the office that Sarge gave me when he retired. He also gave me some of his stationery, which I kept a few precious sheets of those. In fact, I wrote a letter on that. But yeah, this is one of my, I've had this for over 20 years. I just remember this and have very fond memories.
Oh boy. Well, let's see. We went to all of the contests locally, Pennsylvania. We also went to Canada. Canada was a plum. We won that 3 times. As a matter of fact, we won Canada 4 times. Majorettes won 3 times. The band won 4 times. Let's see. The plum would have been Marietta, I think, for field maneuvers and parade, because that's where the biggies came. And by the way, when I say biggies, that's because we didn't open up in our own class. We competed in the open class, which was kind of like David and Goliath, because it went by enrollment, school enrollment, and we were definitely not up there with the biggies, but that's where I wanted the band to be, up with the biggies. The culmination of all this had to have been Fort Myers, Florida, and the Edison Pageant of Light. That had to have been the experience of a lifetime.
Started practicing for Florida in mid-November. Homer Baldwin, the high school custodian, opened the gym on Sundays on his own time so we could practice. Although it was crowded, it was better than no practice. At least that's what Sarge said.
Stiff fingers and frozen valves hindered our music. Thanks to the band boosters who lined and cleared the parking lot for us.
Getting on the plane, hoping to head to a sunnier climate. A lot of the band boosters went along with us, and parents, and Dr. Grover, and Mr. Shoemake from the school. We had about 220 seats on the plane, I guess. and some of us gave the stewardess a little bit of a problem. They didn't like us too much. Well, Mo tried to get a picture of the sign, but it didn't work too well. The sign says, "Welcome Wadsworth Band." Notice no rust on the cars, sunny climate, nice palm trees.
I'm Bill Bauer. I graduated in 1978. I'm currently an associate professor of music education at Case Western Reserve University. My earliest memories of Sarge are of my trombone lessons in 5th grade down in the boiler room at Valley View Elementary School. And really ever since that time, he hasn't been far from my mind even to this day. I brought along a picture this evening for this taping of the Wadsworth High School Band during one of our parades in Niagara Falls, Canada. And that picture hangs in my office in Cleveland, and every day I look at it and I think of Sarge. And certainly if I hadn't been fortunate enough to grow up in Wadsworth, Ohio at the time when he was the band director, and we had a fine ensemble like we had, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. So I'm certainly eternally grateful for the influence he has had on my life and on my career.
Art and the band worked really, really hard to perform and perfect their performances. But there was fun, too. And every day he would have a different piece of paper on the band doors going into the band room. For instance, this one says, "Clouds are a-comin', the sun ain't staying. We better get out and start our plan." And they look for them every day, and it brought a sense of humor and fun, and they just bug him to death. And then this one. "The marchathon is over, my body stiff and sore. We have a concert coming, so inside today for sure." Oh. But my favorite is, "The sun ain't here, but have no fear. We'll go out, so don't you pout. Come on." Isn't that good?
Hi, my name is Joseph Tye. I'm one of the old students from Wadsworth High School. I'm one of Art Baldwin's students. In fact, my class was one of the first classes that he designed as the competition band, and compete we did. I'm not only a student of Wadsworth, but I also taught there for 28 years. I supplied brasses and took over the extra load that Sarge couldn't handle, and also assisted him with marching band, solo and ensemble contests, not only at the middle school, high school, but at the elementary also, where I handled the elementary brass students. We only had 2 band directors at the time. Gene Lawrence was one of them, and Art Baldwin. And then they needed a 3rd man because the size of the numbers was just beyond what 2 men could actually handle. But it was nice to end up working with somebody who was not only my friend, but my mentor and associate of mine that I played many shows with throughout the area. We played the Ringling Brothers Barnum Bailey Circus. Sarge and I played just about everything around.
I got to tell you the story about Zorba the Greek. That was one of our absolutely all-time best concert numbers we ever did with the band. We went to see the movie, and they started to play, ba-dum-bum-bum-ba-dum-bum, and Art said, "I got to go. We got to go. We got to leave. I got to write this. This is good for the band." And that's how Zorba the Greek came to be. You know, the kids were handed a piece of paper at the beginning when we first started, and that was their maneuvers. They learned their places in the pictures we were making from that piece of paper. Isn't that unreal? Anyway, these kids, they were always on the ground. They never got to see what they looked like from the judges up looking down. So this is really an opportunity for them to see what really, really nice designs and pictures we were making on that field that went with the music.
Hi, I'm Lori Witchy. Maiden name is Baldwin, and my father, Sarge Baldwin, was the director of the Wadsworth High School Marching Grizzlies, and my mom, Sally, was the director of the Majorettes while I was in the band, and my sister, Terry, of course, was in the band with us all. We lived, ate, slept, and breathed the marching band. It was our life as a family. It was the one thing we all did together, and we were always together, and it was something that basically just made our whole family. I have so many memories, all good ones, of what it was that we all did together when we were part of the group. A couple of the ones that really stand out for me, truthfully, were the Friday night, believe it or not, football games. As soon as the football game was done and Dad packed up the band room and locked up, my favorite thing was to always drive around through town, and he'd always drop me off in the front of Franco's Pizza, and that was our favorite pizza. We'd get a pepperoni pizza every Friday night after the football game, and we'd sit around the kitchen table, all four of us, and just kind of relive the football game and who did what and who messed up and what was good and what wasn't. And that was a big thing for me. That was a big Friday night family get-together, and nothing interrupted that.
Hi, my name is Cindy Ewing Thomas. I was in the band from 1969 to 1973. I was, and I am, very proud to be wearing my Wadsworth Alumni Band shirt, and by the way, still playing the same horn that Sarge sold me circa 1967. And I think a lot of people come and have a lot of stories about how tough Sarge was, and he was tough. He had to be tough. You know, you have to keep 100 and some high school band kids in line, yeah. But I was privileged enough to have seen more of Sarge as a person, and it started with being one of the select few in his chosen theory class. He handpicked us, and I think there were 6, maybe 8 of us in the class, and that's where we got to hear a lot of his stories about the military, his family, and I also started watching his girls, so him and Sally could get away sometimes, go to a few events, take some golf outings, and got to know Sally very well. She's a very good friend. We always had a blast staying up till all hours talking. And I know that a lot of people didn't see Sarge's softer side, and the one thing that sticks with me all these years is he didn't always tell you were doing a good job. Yeah, you were just glad he wasn't telling you were doing a bad job. So the one thing that has just stuck with me all these years is I was a senior, and I had a big solo for our senior concert, and he came up to me afterwards, and he put his arm around me, and he said, "You play so pretty," and I was just, that is the highest praise I've ever had. It stuck with me all these years, and I was so glad to have Sarge in my life, and he gave me a love of my music and a love of playing my instrument that is going to stay with me my entire life. I came back after a year and got practiced up and decided to apply to the School of Music, and Sarge gave me these glowing recommendations. I was a shoo-in to get into the School of Music, and I know it was because of his recommendations that I received my scholarship. But the main thing that brought me back and drove me to come back and do that after taking a year off was I couldn't disappoint Sarge.
Hi, I'm Tom Baldwin, and I graduated in the class of 72. However, my story involves after I graduated, many years after, in fact. I was asked to direct the Wadsworth Alumni Marching Band, a new group that got together to do just Blue Tip and Memorial Day parades. And it was all membership of ex-Wadsworth High School band alumni. And we were having our first practice outside learning how to march, and of course the parking lot where all good band members learn how to march. And I'm out there trying to get these people to march again who haven't done it in 20 years or longer. And it was a complete mess. They're banging into each other. It looked almost like a Laurel and Hardy routine. And I'm screaming at these people. Of course, they're working over the drum cadence that's being played. They can't hear me. And out of the corner of my eye, I see Art coming out of the back doors of the band room, and he walks up, And he's got that grin that he's got, and anyone in band knows that grin. It's that grin where he knows he's got you. And I said, hi, Art, how you doing? He says, hold out your hand. I said, what? He says, hold out your hand. I said, okay. So I went like that, and he goes, I think you're going to need this more than I am. And I picked it up, and there it was, one of his great Acme Thunder wood whistles that he used so many times in the practice field. And he just said, well, I think you're going to need this more than I am. And the reason he said that is because he was going to retire that year. And so this whistle reminds me of all the wonderful times I had working very hard as a student out in the fields and listening to this thing blow a lot of times. It's just a nice little time machine for me to remember who Art really was.
You know, I don't know if everyone's aware, but Art also taught music at Sacred Heart School, which he liked to do very much. That's good students come from Sacred Heart. Okay, I want to tell you a little bit about the judges you see on the field. They are judging 8 to 5, 6 to 5, and boy, it's a tick. For every time the foot doesn't hit the line, 8 to 5, 6 to 5, a tick costs you points. And that's where we were very, very good, because you didn't lose many points in our span. You hit the line on 8 to 5, 6 to 5. Between each 5-yard line, 8 to 5, 8 steps to 5 to the next yard line. And you had to put the foot, the center of the foot on the yard line. And that's what that judge was doing. Well, there were several judges actually on the field. There was also one up top, and he was judging the figures that you were making, the pictures that you were making, and were they hitting 8 to 5, 8 to 5, with the center of the foot on the line. Couldn't miss it because we had white shoes.
Hi, I'm Terry Baldwin Miller. My dad, Sarge, was my band director from 1979 until 1982. I played oboe in the concert band. I was a flag girl in the marching band. I played xylophone. I played bells. My senior year, unfortunately, Dad had retired, so he didn't get to be my band director then. We have so many wonderful memories as a family about what we did as a group with the other kids and the other parents in the band. Made some wonderful lifelong friends through there. Having my dad as my band teacher was wonderful. I always knew, no matter what, that my dad was there at school for me. Anytime I needed anything, I could go down to the band room and get him.
Hi, Scott Baldwin, class 76. And I guess what I remember most about the years spent in marching band was Sarge's need to practice. We practiced a lot. We had 3 different routines that we used for the march field maneuvers, halftime shows, competition shows, and then literally dozens of songs we had to memorize for everything. And I guess what I remember most is that no matter how well we did and how many times we did it, he always wanted to do it again. And it usually paid off, since back in those days we were pretty well known for having a very good band, and we did very well in the competitions most of the time. And I guess that's where I really remember it most, is that one night down in Newark, we were set to take the field to perform our show for the competition, and somewhere along the line some of the band was doing one show and some of the people got confused and started doing part of another, and pretty soon we had people spinning off in different directions and running into each other. It was like a fire drill out on the field. And once we got off the field, I don't remember him saying a whole lot about it, but I'm sure that when we got back into practice the following Monday, he let us know just how badly we had done, and we had to do it again and again and again.
A judge on one of the tapes had mentioned, and also, you know how you talk afterwards, had mentioned that it was suicide to take that band and put them shoulder to shoulder and march them, especially with white shoes, in what they call a company front. And that shoulder to shoulder, straight towards the stands, because the foot, the position of the foot, the position of the knee, a tick each time. But we did it anyway.
Hi, my name's Merle Fraze. My wife, Mary Edna, and I were involved with the Wadsworth Band Boosters from 1974 to 1983. We traveled a lot as chaperones. And when we didn't go as chaperones, we went as spectators. I did take a lot of film for the band. Not the greatest, but being an amateur. And first, when I started out, there was no sound. Then I bought a camera and a projector that did sound, but I didn't get the big reels, so every 3 minutes I would have to change reels.
The movies of the band, we have to thank Merle Fraze. If he hadn't have followed everywhere the band went and took the movies, we wouldn't have any. So thank you, Merle Fraze, for all the time, and Mary. Mary followed around too. I want to thank you for all the time, effort, and at your own expense, by the way, that you filmed Art's band.
My name is George Parmley. I'm a graduate of Wadsworth High School, 1958. I played in the Wadsworth High School band, and I played trombone. I was under the famous Sarge. What I remember about Sarge is the fact that he had a gap between his teeth, and boy, could he whistle. When he wanted your attention, you knew it. Because of that gap in his teeth, he could whistle. The other thing I remember about him was I had rheumatic fever in high school, and after laying in bed for months, I still wanted to play in band once I got back, and but I was allowed to walk, but not a whole lot. And Sarge made sure, because we practiced out at the Wright High School Stadium, and he made sure that I had a ride to the stadium and back to the high school. And he was very gracious about that. Why I won this trophy, I don't know, because many band members, I'm sure, did just as fine or as good or as bad as I did. So I understand, and I'm almost sure of this, that this is the first trophy that has ever been awarded to a band member. I appreciate that.
I think one of the nicest things that the Wadsworth Band did when Art was there was every year they went to Apple Creek. They had some special day, and we went down and we played and we did a little parade, and it was great. It was great for Apple Creek, but it was also great for our kids. In 1975, I was hired to become the new major advisor. So Art and I sat down at the kitchen table, and we talked about what he wanted to show. We wanted to use the majorettes to get those GE points, and we're talking about a lot of points. So the style of the band I had to take into consideration because I was designing new uniforms, which had to match the style and the music of the band. So I contacted Kate Morris. I had no pattern. I had pieces of paper in my head. So I went to Kate Morris's. Out of these pieces of paper, we designed the red uniform. She sewed. I designed the red uniforms, the white uniforms, and boy, they certainly were a cookie cutter look. From then on, we just took off. The first one we had was, of course, Zorba the Greek. And you had to see him with the music, the black boots, the black gloves, those fire engine red uniforms with the black zippers up the front. It was awesome. And not only that, it was terrific to be there. You had to be there. You had to see the whole thing and listen to it to get it. You had to be there. That's the truth, Homer. While Art was director, we hosted 7 years of the best Wadsworth Western Reserve tournament of bands. 7 years. Bands from all over Ohio, Pennsylvania, West Virginia came to compete in our contests. We had a parade downtown, all through town. We started at Valley View School, came through the square. They were judged at the square on their corners, made a right, and then went clear out to the stadium where they dispersed. Then they were allowed to rest until the maneuvers in the evening. That was the field maneuvers. At that point, it was a whole nother ball game. Now, instead of just marching straight for a parade, you put on your very best wail of a band show. and that you were judged on. I'd like to share something with you. Ever since Art passed away, Joe Ty, first, came down to my house every Memorial Day and played taps for Art. The neighborhood really enjoyed it. When he moved to Boston, you'll not believe this, but Mike Fox took over from Virginia long distance by telephone and played taps through the receiver for Art every Memorial Day. Is that a love or not?
And Joe Ty and I played taps every year. For the first few years after Art died, we met in Sally's home and Sally and Art's home, and we would go to the backyard, which is why I decided to record this in my backyard. And we'd go to Sally's backyard. They had a beautiful garden, just a lot of really dense foliage. I remember walking among the stones there, and we would play taps. We'd play echo taps. So Joe was a great influence on me as well, and also a great student of Art's. And we would play taps together. So I'm just going to play taps for Art. We love you, Art. Thank you so much for all you did for us.